Imagine for a moment that one of the most prominent figures in the Bible, Moses, kept secrets about his personal life that remained hidden for centuries. Among the stories that have been passed down, few have realized that Moses, the chosen one who led the Hebrew people out of slavery, may have had not one, but two wives. This possibility, suggesting a second wife, shocks and intrigues many, especially as most of us learned about only one woman in his life, Zipporah, the faithful Midianite wife. But what if the story was more complex? What if there was a second woman who shared moments of her life alongside Moses, silently on the fringes of the main narrative? In this video, we'll reveal all that is known and unknown about Moses' marital life. Join us on a journey of discovery that promises to uncover the mysteries, contexts, and interpretations hidden in the Bible and other ancient records. To unravel the question of Moses' wives, we need to revisit some of the Bible's accounts, beginning with Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. When Moses fled Egypt after defending a Hebrew by killing an Egyptian, he found refuge among the Midianites. There he met Zipporah, and their marriage marked a turning point in Moses' life, providing support and influence during critical moments. Zipporah's presence is well documented in the book of Exodus, but when we delve into the book of Numbers, an unexpected character surfaces, bringing controversy and intrigue. A brief mention of a Cushite woman, typically used to refer to someone of Ethiopian or dark-skinned origin, appears, and this reference leaves readers questioning her identity. Numbers 12 verse 1 states that Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings, questioned him over his marriage to a Cushite woman. But who was this woman, and where does she fit into Moses' life? Scholars point out that this woman may indeed have been a second wife of Moses, either after or even during his marriage to Zipporah. However, since the Bible provides few specifics, various theories arise. Some argue she was a second wife of African origin, perhaps someone Moses encountered during his desert journeys. Others suggest Cushite was used symbolically or to describe Zipporah's physical appearance, potentially darker-skinned or culturally distinct, setting her apart from other Hebrew leaders' wives. Yet the Bible's sparse description of this mysterious woman leaves enough ambiguity to cast a shadow of doubt over the traditional understanding of Moses' life, deepening curiosity about how his relationship with this supposed second wife might have influenced his spiritual journey and challenges as a leader. While the existence of this second wife remains debated, it's worth considering the cultural and theological impact she might have had on Moses and the Hebrew people. In the Old Testament, figures like Abraham, Jacob, and David are shown entering polygamous marriages, often for strategic or spiritual reasons. Moses' potential union with a Cushite woman might similarly have served more than just a personal purpose, possibly bridging cultural gaps or symbolizing inclusivity in God's covenant. Was Moses then practicing polygamy to fulfill a higher purpose or to strengthen his leadership through wider alliances? Or was this second marriage a personal relationship that revealed his openness to different cultures, enriching his mission? These are questions that lend a richer texture to Moses' life and work, showing him as someone able to bridge divides, embrace diversity, and honor God's purpose. The mention of the Cushite woman in Numbers 12 brings an added twist. After Miriam and Aaron's complaint, God intervenes, defending Moses, and notably punishing Miriam with a temporary affliction of leprosy. Many scholars interpret this as a lesson on acceptance and tolerance. God's response to Miriam and Aaron's criticism emphasizes unity and suggests that Moses' choices, regardless of cultural or ethnic background, were in harmony with divine will. This narrative implies that Moses' life could be a model of inclusivity, and his marriage to a dark-skinned or foreign woman serves as a subtle call to look beyond prejudice. By welcoming this Cushite woman into his life, Moses might have learned firsthand about the acceptance needed to lead a diverse people. His journey, molded by these relationships, becomes a guide for the faithful, showing how diversity and unity can coexist under God's plan. Moses, then, emerges not just as a prophet and liberator, but as a man whose personal life was a journey in its own right. His relationships, particularly with these two women, show that God does not select only perfect people for his purposes, but rather those ready to face challenges. His openness to a foreigner reflects that Moses' leadership would transcend barriers, teaching his people a quiet but profound lesson on acceptance and inclusion. The intrigue surrounding the Cushite woman brings us to examine why the Bible remains mostly silent on this part of Moses' personal life. Some scholars suggest that omitting details might have been a literary technique used to emphasize his prophetic role rather than his personal affairs. Moses' purpose as a leader might have been seen as too important to risk distraction by family complexities. Alternatively, the lack of information might reflect the cultural and social tensions of ancient Israel. A marriage to a Cushite woman, a foreigner in the context of the Hebrew culture of the time, would have undoubtedly stirred opinions among the people. Miriam and Aaron's confrontation perhaps echoes these concerns, as they likely shared the people's commitment to cultural preservation. However, God's swift punishment of Miriam stands out, marking an important moment where he defends Moses' choices, subtly indicating that this union, whether symbolic or literal, was not a negative action, but possibly part of God's broader message of inclusion. The divine response seems to carry an essential lesson on the importance of love and acceptance beyond cultural and racial boundaries. In defending Moses, God could be illustrating that what matters most is faithfulness, not ethnicity or nationality. This action underscores the notion that in God's plan, unity transcends cultural barriers, and his followers should be ready to accept his choices, even when they defy norms. Moses' possible relationship with a Cushite woman adds depth to this message, hinting that Moses was learning to understand the diversity within his own followers by experiencing it in his own life. For many scholars, this union, whether literal or figurative, was a powerful way for God to teach tolerance and love, qualities that Moses, as a leader, would need to guide a multifaceted people towards the Promised Land. This narrative also presents Moses as a figure shaped by struggles and complexities, navigating both his prophetic calling and the challenges posed by his personal relationships. A marriage to a Cushite woman, in this light, may have been yet another example of Moses choosing God's path, despite societal judgment. It places him not only as a leader, but as a person who must balance tradition with the revolutionary aspects of his faith. The incident with Miriam and Aaron reveals that even prophets encounter societal resistance, and that divine paths often require the strength to embrace the unknown, overcoming divisions and biases that may exist in the human heart. Moses, this iconic leader whose story spans millennia, shows us a life marked not only by his role as a liberator, but also by the personal challenges he faced as both husband and father. If he indeed had two wives, he would have held an uncommon position for his time, confronting a dilemma that still fascinates scholars today, balancing cultural expectations with divine calling. As seen in the lives of other biblical patriarchs, family relationships often carried symbolic weight, mirroring larger spiritual battles and societal dynamics. Moses' marriage to Zipporah, a Midianite woman, already hinted at his openness to others beyond his immediate cultural background. But with the possible addition of a Cushite wife, Moses' life takes on a profound layer of complexity, as he not only led a diverse people, but lived a life emblematic of God's call to bridge divisions and embrace others regardless of origin. The role of women in Moses' life, particularly Zipporah, emerges as crucial and deserves deeper exploration. She was not only his devoted wife, but also someone willing to take decisive action, as demonstrated in the account of Exodus 4:24-26. When Moses' life was at risk, it was Zipporah who performed an emergency circumcision on their son, an act seen by many scholars as a profound moment of commitment to the covenant and a testament to her spiritual awareness. This act of sacrifice highlights her dedication to Moses' mission, suggesting that Zipporah was not merely a supportive figure, but an active participant in Moses' journey. Adding a Cushite wife to the narrative suggests even further that Moses' life mirrored the very diversity he would need to navigate as a leader. His relationships might have taught him the tolerance and openness necessary to guide a people as complex as Israel, and his marriage to a Cushite woman could symbolize a personal triumph over cultural boundaries, modeling for his followers a call to unity and faith. Yet the impact of this decision on Moses himself remains significant. Marrying a foreigner, particularly a woman of Cushite origin, likely positioned Moses in the center of societal tensions, as his people placed great importance on preserving a distinct national and spiritual identity. If Moses married a Cushite woman, he might have faced criticism and judgment from his community, as reflected in Miriam and Aaron's reaction. In defending Moses and disciplining Miriam, God could be underscoring the message that what he values is faith and loyalty, not strict adherence to social or ethnic boundaries. This scenario paints Moses not only as a prophet, but as an individual willing to embrace people from all walks of life for a divine purpose. His choice to include those different from him reveals that God's plans are not confined by human prejudice, showing a path of acceptance and openness that transcends time. The theory of Moses having two wives, Zipporah and the mysterious Cushite woman, gives us a fresh lens through which to understand his character and leadership. Moses emerges as a man willing to break from convention, showing openness to cultural diversity, even when that openness invited scrutiny. The narrative in Numbers 12 underscores this, as we see Miriam and Aaron openly criticize Moses for his marriage to the Cushite woman. This criticism likely reflects broader concerns among the Hebrew people about maintaining their distinct identity. The divine response, however, is powerful and decisive. God swiftly punishes Miriam with leprosy, a symbolic and visible reminder of the consequences of prejudice and judgment. By defending Moses, God may be suggesting that his plans require a willingness to accept others as they are, not as we expect them to be, and that Moses' leadership would in fact reflect this inclusivity. The possibility of a second wife from a foreign land thus becomes emblematic of a higher calling. Many scholars interpret this marriage as a metaphor for Moses' expanded perspective, showing that he not only carried a divine mission, but also lived it in his personal life. The addition of a Cushite woman suggests that Moses was a leader who could embrace the other, modeling an acceptance that resonated deeply with God's intention for Israel. His marriage, then, would be a profound message of unity, demonstrating that faith transcends ethnicity, race, or nationality. This lesson, embedded in Moses' life, carries significant implications. It asks each of us to reconsider our own boundaries, encouraging us to reflect on how we can embrace others as God would have us do. Through this union, Moses might have learned to empathize with his diverse followers, and in doing so, became better prepared to lead a multicultural, multi-generational group of people toward the Promised Land. The possibility of Moses' life being shaped by both Zipporah and the Cushite woman also shows us a more human side of this prophet. Far from a perfect, untouchable leader, Moses was a man who wrestled with the demands of his calling and the complexities of his relationships. His experiences as a husband to women of distinct cultural backgrounds might have given him unique insight into the very challenges he would face with his people. To lead a nation out of slavery through the wilderness and to a new identity, Moses needed to embody the values of openness, tolerance, and empathy. His marriages, if indeed there were two, reveal a man willing to love and accept beyond the confines of tradition, reflecting the inclusive nature of the divine call on his life. As we explore the significance of the mysterious Cushite woman and her possible influence on Moses, we delve into questions that transcend the personal and reach into the fabric of his leadership. If indeed Moses shared his life with two wives, each with unique cultural backgrounds, it suggests he was, by divine design, chosen to bridge cultural divides in ways that the Hebrew people were unprepared to grasp. Moses' journey involved embracing those who were different, and by doing so, he demonstrated that the unity of his people would rely on shared values and faith, rather than narrow concepts of race or ethnicity. This interpretation of his marriages reflects an unprecedented inclusivity, making him not just a liberator, but a revolutionary figure who embodies tolerance. His life, therefore, serves as a mirror for the people he led, emphasizing the strength of a community united by belief in a higher purpose over rigid boundaries of tradition. The reaction of Miriam and Aaron to the Cushite woman's presence in Moses' life exemplifies these tensions, revealing the difficult road Moses traveled. Miriam's temporary leprosy, inflicted by God, is often viewed as more than a punishment. It's a divine message reinforcing that prejudice has no place in God's plans. This episode also reminds us that the courage to challenge biases can be as important as religious devotion. A lesson Moses likely internalized as he confronted various tests along his journey. His marriage to a Cushite woman may have symbolized a commitment to the idea that God's chosen people must be open to all who walk in faith. Such acceptance is a radical message for any community, even today, calling each person to look beyond outward distinctions and to recognize God's image in everyone. Through Moses' acceptance of both Zipporah and the Cushite woman, he models this divine inclusivity, suggesting that faith transcends human divisions. Moses' story challenges us to expand our understanding of the divine call and to live out its principles through relationships, actions, and leadership. His union with the Cushite woman is an example of love that refuses to yield to cultural expectations. It shows that God's call often invites us into spaces of vulnerability, where our faith is tested by interactions with those different from us. In the journey of Moses, we see that divine guidance sometimes leads into unexpected relationships that shape, challenge, and deepen our understanding of faith. This message, embedded in Moses' story, remains deeply relevant. We are invited to look beyond surface differences, embracing the fullness of faith, community, and purpose as Moses did. He teaches us that God's call is about openness to transformation, and that true spiritual growth occurs when we, like him, dare to live a life of unity in diversity. This journey into Moses' life reveals a new perspective on one of the Bible's most influential figures. The question of whether Moses had two wives, Zipporah and the mysterious Cushite woman, illuminates not only Moses' personal life, but also the cultural and spiritual lessons woven into his story. Far from the typical image of a prophet, Moses emerges as a complex leader who embraced the unexpected, standing as an example of faith that transcends cultural boundaries. His marriage to a Cushite woman, while debated, offers a profound reflection on the themes of unity and acceptance that God repeatedly emphasized to his people. By defending Moses and punishing Miriam, God underscores the message that divine purpose is not confined by human prejudice, teaching that true faith embraces those who walk a shared path of commitment to God's will. God's defense of Moses' relationship with the Cushite woman goes beyond approval. It symbolizes the depth of inclusivity that God desires for his people. Moses' marriage to a foreigner, whether literal or symbolic, shows us that love, faith, and unity are more vital than narrow societal divisions. His leadership, therefore, was strengthened by the diversity of his relationships, and his life became a mirror of the spiritual tolerance needed to lead a people toward the promised land. Moses was, above all, a man of vision who understood that God's call demanded courage, inclusivity, and an open heart. His marriages, if indeed there were two, become symbols of this openness, teaching us that our own spiritual journeys may require us to look beyond familiar boundaries and to embrace a faith that sees God's image in everyone. As we reflect on Moses' story, we are reminded that true faith challenges us to step outside our comfort zones, to see beyond tradition, and to embrace those who walk alongside us with love and respect. Moses' life serves as a timeless reminder that unity and purpose transcend borders, and that each of us is called to live out our faith with an open heart, guided by the strength to follow God's call, just as he did. If this story sparked reflection on acceptance, faith, and the courage to embrace God's purpose fully, now is the time to take action. Follow Moses' example, and let this message inspire you to open your heart and welcome others beyond boundaries. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to receive more fascinating content that dives into biblical mysteries and hidden lessons from great figures of faith. If this story moved you, please like this video to help more people discover its message, and share it with friends or family who may also benefit from these insights. Don't miss the suggested videos that follow, where we uncover more biblical stories that reveal timeless lessons and powerful perspectives. Let's continue this journey together, discovering and living a faith that challenges and transforms us.